Well, hey everyone, welcome back to another Wildwoods Beekeeping Chat. I appreciate everybody who's checking in tonight. And tonight we have Brian from Flower Street Farm Bees joining us tonight as our special guest. Thank you, Brian, for joining us tonight and spending the time to join us. So first, before we do get into more of some other conversations and flows, and tonight I just plan on having a casual conversation about bees. What we're doing, and people can ask questions. So feel free if you're somebody in the comment section, ask a question. Feel free to. But Brian, before we get into some of the topics, I was wondering if you can share us a little bit about kind of how you got into beekeeping, and a little bit about kind of where you are now and some of your goals for the future.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on, by the way, Grayson. I want to start by apologizing for last week.
No worries.
My son was in a car accident like 3 hours before the stream was scheduled to go, and he's okay, and the other person's okay, but the two vehicles definitely weren't. So I appreciate you being flexible with that. That was kind of an unavoidable situation.
Definitely. No worries.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. So I live here in Lakewood, Colorado, which is kind of a metro town to Denver, Colorado. It takes me maybe 15 minutes to get down to downtown Denver. I started out beekeeping actually as a gardener. I was a teacher for about 20 years, and as I had my summers off, I started taking out my lawn and putting in pollinator plants. So I started out as a gardener. So as a gardener, putting in pollinator plants, I knew I didn't want to mow my lawn every weekend. So I just wanted to make my land be useful in some way. So as I started putting in pollinator plants, I grew an appreciation for all different types of pollinators, and honeybees included. And then one day I had someone come into my classroom and teach my class about honeybees, but she didn't talk about honeybees. She talked about solitary bees. And I learned more in that half an hour about bees than I thought I knew about bees prior. So that was the thing that pushed me over the edge. So I think it was 2014 that I started getting bees kind of as a hobby. And much like you, I got quickly obsessed with it, and I wanted to learn absolutely everything I could and absorb everything. And that takes me to now, where my wife and I have a small business. We're Flower Street Farm. We sell honey, we sell beeswax products from the hive. We grow lavender on our property. We distill lavender, peppermint, clary sage, and hydrosol. So we've got a little mom and pop beekeeping business. Right now I've got about 50 production colonies and probably about 30 or so nukes out and about in my out yards. So yeah, that's it. That's us. We just sold most of our nukes for our spring nuke sales. In fact, I see Jack and Danae are on here. We sold 21 of our nukes to Jack and Danae. They live up in Wyoming, about 6 hours north of us. So we packed up the nukes, drove about 3 hours north on Friday of last week. They met us down in Laramie, and we switched off. Had a great time getting to meet them. It was so much fun. And I've got maybe like 2 or 3 other nukes I've still got to sell. But from there, I'm going to move on to kind of like queen rearing production throughout the season. That's something I've done before on a small scale. I've grafted on a small scale. I've raised queens on a non-grafting basis, but I've never really done like a queen rearing system. And that's what I want to start trying to work on this year. So that's my next thing coming up. How about you? What's going on in your bee yard?
Well, I've been going out there, a lot recently, trying to check them and try to get some honey. I've been doing videos lately showing people kind of what's going on, and this year's been much better than last year. I don't know how your year was last year. It might have been different, but down here, everybody down south had a little struggle trying to get going and try to get bees packing honey. So it's thankfully this year bees are packing in honey in the brood chamber. Last year they didn't, so not as well. They did a little bit, but now they're packing in in the deep for reserves and stuff, and then now they're packing in super. So that's good to see because last year we weren't able to get any honey. So this year I believe we will be able to get some honey.
Nice.
This year, I'm not going to be doing any queen rearing or anything like that. I'm not really in the position to because this year is really like a rebuild year. I started off with just one colony. So I got 6 nukes. I was able to install them. They're doing wonderful right now. Couldn't be happier with, their outcome, what they're doing. Really good brood pattern. The queens lay really, really well. I caught a swarm, so that makes my hives up to 8. So I have 8 right now. So, by the end of the year, I may try to get some more swarms if we can. If we're able to get some more swarms, that's kind of where my, try to get more hives is where I'm really going to be focusing on. I'm not really planning on doing any splits this year, but if my bees decide, I just want to swarm, then I will do some splits and, be able to expand that way if we need to.
Sure.
I have swarm traps out, haven't caught anything in them, so, not too much luck on swarm trapping yet, but I keep everybody updated who is on the channel. And I've been putting honey supers on my hives. I've been make sure to see if we can get some honey this year. So to give some people some context, recently, one of my videos, I'm not going to explain the whole thing because a lot of people watch the video. I was able to get in the hive, and some of my hives are drawing out comb, some are not. So I think what my problem has been is I need to re-wax a lot of my frames. I think that's one of my biggest problems I probably need to do. So in the next couple of days, I'm going to get that done and knocked out. Probably not going to do a video on it because I just need to get it knocked out, but I'll keep everybody updated. I need to re-wax them because I haven't, I've never re-waxed them for a while, since, I bought them. Because they've been outside, actually, and wind and heat outside. They're just, I need to re-wax them. So we're doing well. My strongest hive right now has one super that is full of capped honey, nothing but capped honey. A super that they're drawing out, has some brood in there that the queen accidentally got up there. So I put a queen excluder through. So queen's back down in the brood chamber. She's not in my super anymore. And they're packing some honey in that, and they're drawing it out really well. So, we're doing well. And I hope to get some honey this year. So, we'll see how it goes.
Nice.
Definitely. We've been on this, time, right now it's a really good year. We're having a good flow going on. Decent flow. It's kind of winding down just a little bit. Probably near area 2. But here, we're hoping to get tallow in the next couple of weeks. So we're still waiting for that. I know Bruce recently, he's been talking about the tallow too. I've been talking about the tallow. Everybody's been talking about the tallow when it's to be coming in, and we should be able to get a good honey crop hopefully this year out of tallow. Something could go wrong, something could, I guess, but we'll just wait and see how everything goes. I do want to ask you this: how is your flow going on in your neck of the woods?
It's pretty good. I would say it's probably pretty different than yours. I know last year you guys got that hard freeze, and that impacted your flow pretty significantly. We've had things like that affect us in years past, but we didn't have that last year. We haven't had that this year. And we don't really get like multiple flows. We just kind of get like one main flow. So typically I'm putting my honey supers on the beginning of May and pulling them off like mid-July. Everything's early this year, so it's hard to decide whether everything's going to end early or if it's going to extend the season. So we'll see how that goes, but so far it's been pretty good. We don't get a fall flow at all, so after my honey supers are off mid-July, we're pretty much done with producing honey. There might be some light stuff coming in, but any of that will be for the bees as they're getting ready for winter. So we get that one flow, and that's pretty much it. But it's going good. We're having a good season so far. It was a pretty mild winter. I had good overwintering numbers. I went from like 55 to 45, which gives me just the right amount of comb to play with as I'm making my splits in the spring. So that worked out perfectly. And yeah, everything's good. We're just gearing up for the honey season right now.
Definitely. And our season has started early this year too. Last year it did start early, but our problem last year was we had a cold snap that killed everything, and everything didn't know what was going on, and it ended up not really doing well.
Yeah.
So this year it started early again, and I was hoping that we wouldn't have a repeat of last year, because if we did, then we'd be in for a bad year. But this year, thankfully, we didn't have that. Flow came in smoothly. We're kind of dwindling down just a little bit. There's still some privet out there, but like I've been talking about, and many people have been talking about before, once the tallow comes, it'll be hard hit. Hopefully, we hope it's gonna be a good flow. It's gonna be a very hard hit flow that it'll be able to we'll be able to get a lot more honey than I have on my supers right now. So this year, I've been thinking about how much I want to extract. I can't really say. Many people, would like to know how much honey I want to extract. I'm hoping, 10 gallons, somewhere around there. I put on some deeps with drawn foundation just for the time being. So then, because right now I still have to do the wax, and I need to re-wax, and that's going to take a little bit for me to be able to get done. So I'm going to have some deeps on some of my hives that are really, really big, that have some drawn comb that they can fix. It needs to be fixed anyway. It's been sitting out. It needs to be fixed. I'll let the bees fix it, store some honey up there, and we'll hopefully be able to extract it. And we're hoping that's the way it's going to go. But I do have to ask a question. And everybody does have their goals and their plans. We'll talk a little bit about I'll talk about a little bit about my plans and goals. But I wanted to ask you, are there any other plans and goals that you'd like to try to accomplish this year, and some other things that you'd like to be getting into other than what you're doing now?
Yeah, you bet, Grace. And actually, every year I set goals for myself. Or actually, we set goals for ourselves, my wife and I, as a business. Some of the goals are business related on how we want to grow, and some of them are like personal growth related on like how I want to grow as a beekeeper. One of my big growth areas this year is around trying to create a queen breeding program. So my work around trying to create a queen rearing system is going to lead into part of my work with my master beekeeping project around genetic resistance and teaching people about the UBO assay. So part of my big project is helping people find bees that have high genetic resistance out in the local Denver area, and then to build some sort of bee breeding program based on those people and those bees that we find. So there's that huge professional development piece that I have there. I'm in the master beekeeping program through the Colorado State Beekeeping Association, so I have a lot of work to do through that. Just put a couple of stands down in a new yard, so I have a couple of new yards to expand to. This year we are doing 2 farmers markets, which has gone great so far, but we're going to have a tough time keeping up with it. So that's going to be a challenge of making sure we can have enough product for each market. So those are some of, I feel like I'm forgetting some. There's always some new products I want to try, or some different creamed honey flavors, that kind of thing. So we definitely have some of that on the list. But every year we look at our business, and we love bees. We're educators. We love to teach people about bees, but we're also a business. I need to pay my bills. I have 2 kids who are in college, so I need to be able to pay their tuition. So we're always looking at ways to maximize our profits. So we spent a lot of time kind of learning the market scene and trying to figure out where the great places for us, where do we fit into different markets. And this year it really feels like we've dialed it in, where we're maximizing the amount of sales that we have without having to pay a large registration fee for these events. I see a lot of friends in the comments over there. We got Gunline Keith. Have you seen Keith killing it with his honey extracting this year so far? He's
Definitely.
having a bumper crop, it seems like, there in North Carolina. We got
Definitely.
DC in here. Danae and Jack are here. Tracy's here. All our friends. Brian
Definitely.
Bennett. Randy Tar Heels here. Thanks for coming in, everybody.
Definitely. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We have a good little crowd here tonight. I see DC. I think
Russell's here. Richard's here. Thanks for
Richard. I
joining
see
us,
Richard.
everybody.
I think
More
DC had a question that I missed earlier. Let's see. Brian, how's your new yard doing?
My new yard. Which one? I'm not sure which one he means. All of my yards are doing great. Probably the one I don't know if he means the solar farm. Last year I started a yard on the solar farm and it took them forever to get the site ready. So I finally started putting bees in October, and I ended up waiting to put some in till this spring. But now it's a full yard. Yeah, DC, it's a full yard right now. I've got at least 20 colonies and a couple nukes there. I'm still not sure how much that yard's going to be able to handle 20 colonies and honey production. So I might turn it into like a place to put swarms or small nukes or something like that. I still need to kind of evaluate that site and see how much of a honey producing site it's going to be. And if it's not going to be a honey producing site, I'm going to have to figure out like how it's going to fit into my system to make it be productive and worthwhile in a different way.
Definitely. Russell Koopman here. He's asking Brian, do you sell more regular honey or creamed honey?
About half and half. Most people are more familiar with regular honey, so regular honey, just liquid honey, is always the top seller. But we specialize in value-added honeys, and Gunline, what I think he called us, the Gump Shrimp Company of beekeeping. Absolutely, I take that as a compliment. I look for many different ways to make money. I know that I'm not the kind of guy who's going to be able to run 500, 600 colonies. I'm not going to be able to make a business go that way. I've got a bad back and a bad neck, so I've had to figure out how can I make a business out of it without having to run so many colonies that I'm gonna wreck my body. So value-added honeys was definitely one kind of business decision that we made right from the very beginning. Another thing that pushed us in that direction was the fact that our honey crystallized so quickly. So I spent the first year trying to fight that crystallization process in between markets to bring liquid honey to the market. And finally, I said to myself, this is stupid. I'm not going to fight this anymore. I might as well work with it. So we started making creamed honeys, and it was super fun. Once you started getting to a point where your first time getting a lot of honey is really exciting. You get like a bucket of honey and you're like, wow, this is great. And then you get to the point where you start having buckets of honey and you're like, what am I going to do with this all? And then you get, it gives you permission to be creative. If you only harvested 3 gallons for the year, you don't really want to experiment with it and try a new recipe, right? Because you don't have much to lose. But if you have buckets and buckets, then that kind of gives you permission to go, let's try a new recipe. Let's try something new. Let's try something different. And once we got to that level, we did that. And, first we made creamed honey, and then we made cinnamon creamed because it's a classic. And then we started getting creative from there.
Definitely. Good way to, very, very good to be, creative, like you said. And, I always think about that too. More you can have, honey, have a little bit more, be able to experiment with, try something new, some different things that you'd like to try. And if it works, and, you can try to sell it on your, on your store, or, locally. Sometimes we'll sell things locally. Sometimes we'll sell on marketplace, our honey, and, I have no idea how much honey I'm going to make this year. I may make me a lot, but I have no idea what I'm going to do with. Or I may make only 5 gallons, that I have to, be kind of wise with it, and have to be kind of like in a point where I can't, I'm not free to be able to, of course, if I could experience, or, make some different things and try new things, but then I have a lot of honey that I could lose out of that, because if it doesn't go the right way that I want it to. So, it's always, something, good to try, new point, like you said, get to a big a lot buckets of honey, a lot of gallons of honey. You can experiment with it and try whatever you want to try to do creamed honey, or if you want to try a new recipe for creamed honey, or if you want to try a new recipe for your regular honey, because we've bought creamed honey before, and it's I think we have done I can't really tell. I know we bought some type of honey that has different flavors in it. That's what I do know. Like cinnamon, chocolate, and some of that type of stuff. I know that's what we've had before. It's really good, from a little beekeeping supply little store. So it's always a good way to think, and I agree with you, on that. Russell has another question. Says, Brian, what size of jars of regular honey do you use, and which sells best?
Yeah, we used to sell 2 different size jars at the market, but once we got to the point where we had so many different flavors we were offering, the idea of bringing 2 different size jars of 7 different flavors just seemed so cumbersome. We just decided to simplify. So we just use 12-ounce hex glass jars. We just use glass. Like I said, our honey crystallizes really quickly, so I want to be able to teach our customers how to reliquify our honey, and doing that in plastic is a little trickier than doing it in glass. So typically we just sell the 12-ounce hex jars. There are some situations where we do the 8-ounce hex jars, like where we sell our honey through a couple of farm stands or a couple of CSAs. So we'll sell them a case of our 8-ounce jars of honey, and then they'll resell it for a couple of dollars profit on their own. Like during the holiday season, we'll do like a 3-pack, and the 8-ounce jars fit better in like a sampler 3-pack than the 12-ounce. So we'll use them for that as well. But for the most part, we've just simplified it all to one size. Lots of different flavors to choose from, but just one size.
Definitely. I've always thought about different sizes, for jars. We've used a regular, like glass, well, I don't know what you would call them, jars, glass jars, for like comb honey and stuff. We've basically used like 8-ounce jars most of the time when we sell our honey, and I've always, thought about using some different ones. You could use 12-ounce. I was thinking, try to make it simple. I may get some 12-ounce and some 8-ounce. Try to do a combination of the both. But then, if which one I like better, I can, decide on a simpler, one. Crystallizing, I thought my honey was crystallized, and I have had my honey in jars for almost a year. They have not crystallized. Yeah, I've always wondered. It's been a year and a half, maybe even 2 years. I've had a honey, and it has not crystallized in the jar. It's still, like no sign of crystallizing yet. So it's always, a way, I can look at it. I've always wondered if it's maybe the type of honey that it may be to, make it not, get, crystallize, as quick. Because some honeys, right when you get it, sometimes it crystallizes, but, that's natural if it crystallizes. A lot of people will think if it crystallizes, oh, it's old, things like that. A lot of people, grocery stores, that's why grocery store honey is.
Or it's gone bad.
That's
it's gone
right.
bad. It's crystallized. And that's why I love working the markets. Like sometimes it's hard getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to a market, right? But I love teaching people about bees and teaching people about honey and helping them understand that crystallization is actually a sign of raw, unfiltered honey, not a flaw in your honey, but something that you might want to look for as a positive attribute, because that honey's been treated properly.
That's right. Definitely. And Mary downstairs says, I have customers who prefer crystallizers. Crystallized is good. There's whenever it gets crystallized, it's actually pretty good. It's kind of sometimes crunchy and stuff.
Mary, what part of the country are you from? Different parts of the country have different preferences. Some parts really prefer like a squeeze bottle plastic. I wonder what part of the country, and if that has anything to do with her customer base preferring crystallized honey. And that's a really important point. You know, you have to think about if you're going to sell honey, you have to think about what your customers are expecting, what they're used to. And that doesn't mean you can't educate them, but that's a really important place to start as you're
Right.
looking to market your honey.
That's right. I believe, if I can remember correctly, Mary's in Michigan.
Okay.
I think, Mary. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I'm not always able to remember where everybody's from. Um, Sometimes it can be kind of challenging. I'm subscribed to like 150, 100, probably different now. It's probably 178 channels, and most of those are beekeeping channels. So it's always hard. Yeah, but that's what I thought. Southeast Michigan.
There
When
you
I
go.
when I ask, they say they know it's real.
So she's got some educated customers. That's awesome. And that's part of what we see our job is to educate those customers so
That's
that
right.
they learn about honey and all different types of honey. I see Lee got in here. I hope you had a good day at work, Lee. Thanks for
Definitely.
joining us.
Definitely. Thank you, Lee, for joining us. I know Lee's having a pretty good year down there in um, Louisiana, so it's good to hear that people are going really good right now. Having a good season. Keith's having a good season and says my 1 pound plastic squeeze bottles were my slow seller last year. This year they are my best seller. Go figure. Well,
So Keith, do you offer both glass and plastic? And I see Carl just popped in as well. Carl's having a great year, great start to his year as well.
see you, Carl. Thanks for
And
joining.
there's Lisa. There's
Lisa,
Grammy.
Lisa,
And
Brian,
Brian.
Joe Mater, Tar Heel, Brandy down there. Good to see y'all. Lisa's not too far from here. She's in Ozarks, and I'm sure she's having probably a good year too.
I just saw a whole bunch of like products that she was putting up on Etsy. That was super cool to see. Looks like she's getting going on her business. That was super cool, Lisa. It's great to see all those cool products.
Definitely. Whenever you go back to business, and stuff, I've always thought about kind of where I'm going to lead to my business. I'm sure you've probably thought same way too. That's kind of what we've been talking about, being in the business, right? And, I can sell honey, and I kind of want to get creative and, like be able to have different ways to make some income, whether it be honey and some other things. But this year, I'm going to be probably staying on honey because my operation isn't, in the best position for queen rearing because I really want to do some queen rearing. And I probably can't do queen rearing yet because I, unfortunately, can't find my grafting tool anywhere. So it's like, I can't find it. I don't know where I put it. I put it in a good bunch of stuff, and I probably, accidentally could have accidentally been thrown away or something. I have no idea where it's at. So this
Yeah.
time I gotta get like a pack of them, so I have a lot of grafting tools, so I don't have to buy one all the time because I only bought one. I think I need to get a couple just for backups. Grayson, your bees make a lot of propolis. You are kind of into trees like I am. Oh, they make a lot of propolis, DC. It's unbelievable how much propolis they make. They make a good bit of propolis. Every time I go out there, it's sealed. They propolize it up really, really well. And I know that they propolize it very, very good because whenever I take a box off, and I set it on the ground and I pick it back up, we have pine needles on the ground. So those pine needles get stuck to that all the time, and it's so annoying whenever it's always a mess. And in a lot of times in my bee yard, you're going to see a couple of pine needles sticking out of in the middle of my boxes because there's a lot of propolis on the bottom of the box and the top of the box that it gets stuck all the time. It's really no way to avoid that if I'm going to set the box on the ground. I might want to get like a concrete slab or something and put whenever I set my box down. I don't have that problem. It's probably a good fix. I probably need to, figure on doing. But I'm into trees. They make a lot of propolis. What about in your area? Brian, do your bees make a good bit of propolis?
I think it's more about the bees than the area. We have lots of trees in this area. We have lots of cottonwoods, which are kind of known for bees hitting for propolis. Some of my bees are really gummy bees, and some of them aren't. So I think it depends more on, for me anyway, the type of bee that I have as opposed to the area, because there's tons of trees here in the metro area. Um,
Definitely.
you talked about thinking about making money as a business, and one of the things that when in my mind I decided I wanted to make a go at it, Grayson, I decided that the first thing I needed to do was build a foundation of knowledge and experience around beekeeping. And that was my number one job. I had to figure out how to keep bees and how to keep bees well. And not until I figured out how to do that did my brain shift to how can I turn this into a profitable operation? Because I knew it wasn't going to be successful and profitable if I didn't have that solid foundation of beekeeping skills to build my business on, right? So we spent a lot of time getting better at beekeeping, which we definitely needed to do, right? We started out with a lot of bees that died on us. And we started out just by playing around with recipes and making little small batches of like lip balms or lotion bars or salves or whatever. And then like giving them out to family and friends for the holidays or whatever. And that's what allowed us to learn about that part of the business as well. We were able to dial in our recipes. And by the time we were able to start creating products to bring to a customer base, we had already decided on what our recipes were going to be, our base recipes, and how we were going to change them. So we spent a lot of time preparing to make money by building a skill set. And only when we felt like that skill set was solid enough did we feel like it was time to transition to that next part of our business plan. Does that make sense?
Definitely, it makes some good sense.
Yeah.
Russell has a question. I missed his question earlier, but he redid it. So if you have a question and I miss it, sometimes I'm talking and I miss it, please redo it, and until we actually see it. Brian, he says, Brian, how many flavors of cream honey do you typically sell? I know there are seasonal flavors you only sell at certain times of the year.
Yeah, we try to rotate flavors throughout the year, and Russell, this was actually a good reminder for us. We started the year and we tried to start the year kind of off at a pretty good pace. So we had like 5, 6, 7 different flavors at one point, and some of our flavors, which are usually pretty popular flavors, were ignored. But this past weekend, so we have a Saturday market and a Sunday market. And this past weekend was our third time doing the Saturday market, but our first time doing the Sunday market. So it was our first weekend where we had 2 markets, right? And we sold out of a lot of flavors at the Saturday market, but we had a lot of the other ones that didn't sell well at the Sunday market. So our espresso infused honey was one of them. And we killed it with our espresso infused honey on Sunday just because it didn't get lost in all of the flavors. So that was a good reminder for me, Russell, to maybe limit it to like 5 or maybe 6 at the most flavors, so the flavors don't gonna get lost in the crowd. So we started the year with a creamed honey, blueberry creamed honey. We did regular creamed honey. I'm forgetting some. Oh, Jen wanted to do a matcha creamed honey, so matcha green tea. And then we did our raw honey, our hot honey, and our espresso infused honey. And like our hot honey and espresso infused honey did really well on Sunday because all of our creamed honeys were sold out. So I've noticed that a lot of times, especially with our new customer base of the new market, that having too many flavors might be too much for the customers.
Definitely. Let's see. Philip Morse. He says, I have a general question, or to what degree does high wind affect honey production and/or colony growth?
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm sure it does. I just don't know how much.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a good.
somebody in the comment section have comment on what you think, because I've never really thought about that. On to be honest, I'm sure
Yeah.
it probably could. It probably does have a little bit of effect. I guess.
Morris Homestead has a good question. Do you see that one, Grayson? There you go. Yeah, so this was a learning process for us for sure. Now, first thing, we have a huge benefit of being in a metro area, living near a really big city. We have a lot of markets to choose from. whether it's a seasonal market that you have to commit from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, to little pop-up events that happen, like they're little one-off events. There's tons to choose from. So it was really clear from the very beginning that that was something that was a positive for us. And I knew from the very beginning I didn't want to go wholesale. Like, being small scale, I knew that to maximize my profits, we had to do retail. And that meant selling directly to customers, which typically means selling at markets and events. The very first barrier we had to overcome was social media. Prior to this business, I have not had a Facebook account or an Instagram account. But as we started applying for these events, they were asking things like, what's your Instagram handle? What's your Facebook handle? And it was like an expectation that you had these things and you were helping to promote that event if you were a part of it by pushing it out on posts. So the very first thing we had to do was learn social media. I had a buddy of mine, Grayson, sit me down and teach me what a hashtag was. I was 49 years old and I had to have someone teach me what a hashtag was. And I was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. So that was definitely the first part that was tough about getting into the markets. Another part about the markets is the hit and miss kind of thing. You know, we quickly learned that if we were going to spend all day, the two of us together, which we usually do markets together, my wife and I, if we're going to spend all day in a parking lot or a closed down street in some downtown area, we wanted to get something back out of it. So if I was paying $100 for a registration fee and only making $250 in sales, that was not a day worth it. That was not an event worth it. So we tried to find a customer base that felt like matched our products. We tried some different events. We tried some different organizers, and some were great and some weren't great. And every year we looked at our numbers and we see which ones we want to try to do next year. Oh, another thing, you got to be well in advance to sign up and register for these events. There are some events like that are holiday events for November that are being advertised right now. So if you're thinking about all these events, you should get on social media and get on all like the little events pages on Facebook or whatever, and almost start looking for next year. So I have in my calendar, like, one of our best events is our Cider Days, which is our fall harvest festival here in Lakewood. That registration is open on June 1st. That date is in my calendar. And on June 1st, I will be on the computer applying for that event because I want to make sure I get into that event and not have it be filled and me miss my opportunity. So being really organized and knowing what you want to get into, experimenting with different markets, that kind of thing, super important. Mary's got a really important idea there too, networking. Getting to know the other vendors, getting to know your neighbors as vendors, because they're going to be helping you out and you're going to be helping them out throughout the day. Being good to the organizers who, yeah, you pay money to have a space at their event, but they're providing a service to you by getting all those customers in front of your booth. So making sure you have those great relationships with those people that you're going to be in regular contact with are super important.
Definitely. Do you guys think JW here, use for grafting tool? Thank you, JW, for the $10 donation. We definitely appreciate it, and that'll definitely go for the grafting tool.
Hey,
And,
JW.
definitely need to get that and try to get like a pack. I don't think they're too much if you get them in like a 5-pack, so then I can try to do some queen rearing. Not this year, probably next year. So hopefully we can try to do some rear some queens. Last year I did raise queens, but I had no idea what to do with the queens. So then like I didn't have like a plan set, and I didn't know what I was gonna do. So next year, before I raise queens, I'm gonna ask myself, all right, what am I gonna do with the queens? Am I gonna sell them? Can I sell them? But before I sell them, I have to make sure they're quality queens. So before I even think about selling them, I got to make sure they're quality queens. I don't want to sell bad queens, of course.
You bet.
And try to make sure they're good quality. Use them for myself. Raise queens, kind of get to know the concept of queens, how to raise them, try to get a little bit better of at grafting. Because last year, I'll be honest, I wasn't really the best at grafting. I had some good sells, some good takes, but but it takes time, for grafting, of course. That everybody, I know, even though I'm not the best at grafting, it's just, something that I've learned from other beekeepers, that it takes time, and it'll take me time to get better at it. But before I know it, I'll get the hang of it, the swing of it, and be able to raise some quality queens, and hopefully get to a point where I can sell them to incorporate that into part of my future business. Because bees, I do want to make bees my business at some point in the future. Whenever I get to that level, people ask me how many hives do I want to have when I turn it into a business, and I just it's always hard for me to say that, because I never know what's going to happen. I may say, well, I'll stick around 50, but then before I know it, I'll be up to 250 and keep going, because bees love to expand, and I'll be up at 250, and I say, there's no way I'm going to get any more. There's no way. And then I go back up, and I have 500 hives. I've seen it on other people who raise bees, and they grow fast, and before you know it, you have a lot of hives, you have a lot of honey. So I'm hoping we can get into a spot to make this a good business. I may try to make up like an Etsy store or something. That's kind of where I want to start. Sell a little honey, try to figure out some interesting products that I can make, and sell some queens. And then later on, I'll probably make my own website where I can actually sell things on there too. But I'm gonna kind of take it a little slow. That's just some ideas that I always think of things in the future, of what I can do, what my options are, and try to pick the best option for the time being, what I need to do, right? So, I'm always thinking about that.
Yeah, me too. I like how you're thinking about like having plans for the future,
Sure.
but flexible plans,
That's
because they
right.
could go in several different directions. And sometimes opportunities just cause you to take that branch in the
Right.
road in that direction, where all of those branches are good, positive ones. But sometimes the sign just points that way, just from opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. And, that's what I've always thought about whenever I answer that question. Cause, I actually get that question a good bit. Um, and whenever I'm thinking about it, I want to have a plan, but I also can be very, very flexible with that plan, right? And so then I'm not, you know, so I can be kind of flexible. We have a question here from Brian. This is Grace's mom. That's my mom there, and she's asked, "What advice do you have to give him as a 14-year-old beekeeper who wants a future business? Where to start?"
This is my advice I give to anyone who wants to start a beekeeping business, whether they're 14 or 41, it doesn't matter. It's not just about beekeeping. Like I told you before, it's important to build a skill set around beekeeping, right? But being a business person, that's a totally different thing, right? There's the two things. You can be a good beekeeper and a terrible business person. You can be a good business person and a terrible beekeeper. But to run a successful business, you have to be a good beekeeper and a good business person. And to learn some basic business skills, this was the hardest thing for me. Like once I got to that point where I felt like my skill set as a beekeeper was good enough, I didn't have any experience running a small business. I taught math plenty as a teacher, so the accounting part wasn't hard. But learning that part of the business has been a steep learning curve for me. So I've really relied on some friends and some resources who have that experience more than I do to lean on. And that's part of it too, not being afraid to ask for help, not being afraid to look at those people who have those skill sets that you don't, right? And I
Right.
feel like I've done a really good job of going, okay, these are my skill sets. This is what's awesome about the area I live in. How can I apply my skill sets to my geographical situation to make me work here? Like I know I couldn't pick up my business model and plop it down anywhere. It's reliant on the fact that I have a really robust market scene. So if I were to go to rural America anywhere, my entire customer base would disappear and I'd have to rethink my entire business model. So learning basic business skills, learning how to run a small business, I think those are tremendously valuable skills because they can be applied to any endeavor, whether Grayson decides to give up on beekeeping and open a guitar store. I know you're really passionate about guitars, right? Maybe that's the branch in the road that you end up taking in your life, but those small business skills allow you to be successful in that endeavor. I would also say that those small business skills, how you work the books, how you learn how to take care of your money, that's going to help you in learning just how to care for your money in your own personal life as well with your personal expenses. So first of all, that's awesome that your mom watches, right, while you're doing the lives. And that's a really good question because I think there are a lot of good beekeepers out there who have failed in business because they haven't really put that time into learning how to run a business.
Definitely. Good advice there for me and a lot of other people, and I agree with you. Being able to have business skills. I still have to learn that stuff. I'll be honest. I probably wouldn't be the best business person, but if I can learn, I can learn anything. If I set my mind to it, and I've learned beekeeping. I've learned a lot of different stuff about beekeeping. I still have a lot more to learn about bees. I want to learn every day. I try to listen to other beekeepers. Actually on a couple of my videos, I actually asked a big question. Asked people for advice, and I see a lot of times beekeepers are scared to ask for advice. I've talked about it before, just because a lot of beekeepers don't want to seem like they don't know anything. But I always just figure it as I always you know I'm not nervous to ask for advice because a lot of times if I can ask for that advice, it's a lot of times could help me out. It's always valuable to listen to other people's opinions. It may not work for me, but I still like to listen to other people's opinions. Yours, anybody who I have on the channel, the chats, or if I'm learning, a lot of times whenever I'm doing my lives, with you or by myself, I learn a lot from the viewers watching too. A lot of people are like, "Well, I don't know about that," because I know, a lot of people saying, "Well, we learn a lot from you," throughout live chats. I'll probably learn more from people in the chat, because I like to listen to their opinions, what they're talking about in the chat, because chats are fun to do and all. So that's a good question and great advice there for anybody who wants to kind of start a business and be able to make that their own and be able to do it and make money and financial stuff and be able to do that for your business.
I got a question for you, Grayson.
Definitely.
I'm a mentor to a couple of local beekeepers, a couple of beekeeper friends of mine. In fact, one of my mentees called me today with a problem. She wasn't sure what to do. So she called me looking for advice. Do you have a mentor that you can reach out to if you do that? You go into your colony and you're like, I don't know what to do. I got to call this person to get an idea or just to kind of talk this through. Do you have someone like that?
Well, I will say this. I don't have anybody that um, because when we learned, started beekeeping, we didn't really have a mentor,
Yeah.
mentor,
Yeah.
and so we kind of learned all by ourselves. But I
Yeah.
have a lot of people behind the scenes before, who I can talk to, right? Like Bruce, I have his phone number if I need to call him and ask him for something. I have some, I can't remember the names of some other people, that email me say if you have a question, just call, and I have that access to do that too. And one of the biggest mentors I probably have is probably people who watch the channel. And
Yeah.
you're one of them too, who watch the channel, and I try to take in from other beekeepers too, YouTube. Now, I will say I don't use everything that people say. Sometimes maybe, it may not work for me fully, but I can use something out of it. Something, a little piece of it might work, and I can screw some other things onto it and make it work as a full thing. Maybe a one little piece, or I like to call it screws. In my way of doing it, don't work. So I take somebody else's bolt or screw and put it in there. Maybe it will work a little bit better. Maybe I can use that. I can learn from people even up in Canada. So
I've learned a lot on YouTube too, Grayson, and there's a lot of people who bash YouTube as a resource for learning and a resource for learning beekeeping, and it's true. There's a lot of garbage out there. Anyone can film themselves doing anything in a beehive and then post it on YouTube. That is
Sure.
absolutely true. But the fact is this: there are tons of really poorly written beekeeping books out there too.
Right.
You can go up to Amazon, you can Google or Amazon search beekeeping 101 and you'll get hundreds of books. Hundreds. There's just as many bad books about beekeeping as there are bad YouTube channels about beekeeping. I feel like if you want to become an accomplished beekeeper, it's your job to find reliable sources. And like you said, it doesn't mean you're always going to take that information and
That's right.
apply it into your yard, but it's another tool that you can put in your toolbox that you might be able to pull out at some point, maybe next week or maybe 10 years from now. So searching out podcasts that you value, books, YouTube channels, all different ways to gather information, I find is important. I've learned just as much from YouTube as I have from peer reviewed published papers by university scientists, right? So it's all valuable. And there's garbage in every single category. So it's just your
Definitely.
job as a beekeeper to figure out what is the good stuff and what's not the good stuff. And that's hard. That's hard in the beginning, but it quickly kind of the garbage quickly kind of filters out to the side and
Yeah, definitely.
the good stuff rises to the top for sure.
Definitely. Russell has a couple questions here. He has two. Ryan, how is your grafting going? How many and how late in the year do you graft?
I'm like Grayson, where I'm still working on my grafting skills. I've done a ton of raising queens just off of non-grafting methods, so that's part of what I want to dial in this year. I can graft clumsily, but I'd like to hone those skills quite a bit. I haven't started this year at all yet. I just moved a bunch of those nukes, so my backyard is now clear to start working on a mating nuke system. And typically I'll stop raising queens when the flow ends. So again, that's mid-July for us. We'll see what it's going to be this year.
Definitely. All right.
Yes, the market scene does wear me down. Absolutely. Just like any other job, it's a grind and it can definitely wear you out. I do love it. I love many parts of it. I love teaching kids. I love bringing the observation hive. I was an elementary teacher for 20 years. So when a kid comes up and is interested in bees, it just makes my day. So it can be a grind, loading and unloading the truck. We're into this kind of system now. I'm sitting here in my garage doing the interview, and on one side of the garage is all my beekeeping stuff. On the other side of the garage is all my marketing stuff. So on Friday, all of my beekeeping stuff gets emptied out of the truck. All my market stuff goes into the truck. And then Sunday night, it reverses. But the cool thing about this year, doing the Saturday Sunday system, is after Saturday's market, which is our bigger market, that one's definitely the more hopping one. All I'm taking out of the truck is anything I don't want to melt in it overnight if it's too hot, like our bombs or our creamed honeys. So the tents, the tables, all the booth stuff is staying in the back of the truck. So it does minimize the work a little bit. There's that. There's I don't know. I don't get tired of the people so much because there's so much variety and people watching and dogs at the market. That's fun. Um, I enjoy the market scene quite a bit, especially when my wife and I are doing it together. We're like 50-ish. It's not like we're going out on dates on the weekend anymore. So it's just part of our time spending time together. So that's fun.
Definitely. Well, if you have any more questions, folks, please do leave them in the comment section. Feel free. We have 6 more minutes we can go before
All right. Can I ask you a couple questions, Grayson?
Sure, go ahead.
So you're a homeschooler, right?
That's right. We do
homeschoolers get summer break?
Summer break. We do.
Okay. So you go through a normal school year calendar,
That's
just
right.
like people would go to like a regular public school?
That's right. You know,
Has
and we then
has
we get say again.
has beekeeping been a part of your homeschool curriculum?
Well, it kind of is actually. Well, there's not really any courses, but I've always been focused on trying to get like a take like a type of course, right, to be able to force me to be able to learn more about beekeeping, which haven't done yet, but I'm looking into some different places where I could take a good course that would give me more fundamentals and some things like that, of course. Then day to day, the BR too gives me a lot of information out there. If I'm on the BR, and I've always, I love bees, and bees is really one of the biggest things that I'm also that's incorporate into school that I really like to learn about, because it's bees are fascinating, and most bees. There's a lot of people who do recognize bees as being important, but I do know I've seen it before. There's a lot of people out there who think bees are useless. I've heard it before, and I'm always like, well, bees are really one of the most important creatures on this planet, and they're really fascinating too. So I've always been fascinating about bees, and everything about them, and not just I've always learned from books. I read books. I have the Beekeeper's Bible. That's a good book that I've read before, and
Sure.
of course I haven't read the whole book because it's a big book, but
Yes,
I've
it is.
scrolled through it, and I've learned a good bit. One of the biggest things I've learned on there is genetics and stuff like that. Being able to recognize that stuff that I actually didn't know before. So I learned a lot, reading through genetics, and knowing that at some point I'm gonna be raising queens. So then I know a little bit more about the whole genetic line, stuff like that. In beekeeping too. I plan on trying to read a whole book. If I can read a whole book, then that'll be a good extra for my when I'm keeping bees. But yeah, it's definitely a part of my school.
Um, I had another question. I lost it there. It's gonna come. Oh, yeah. We know that you love bees, Grayson. You watch everything. You're on every live. We see you just like me and DC on everything. Tell us something about you that's not about beekeeping. What do you like to do when you're not doing bees?
Really? Well, one of the we have chickens. We do chickens. We had a lot more chickens before. We used to try to hatch guineas, too, pheasants, stuff like that. But we kind of grew out of that. Just because it was kind of difficult. We didn't know anything about it when we did it, but we were able to hatch some. Our chickens are old, going back, the bees and stuff. We got the bees right when we got chickens. So chickens are almost like 7 years old. So a lot of them, unfortunately, didn't make it to this close. And I do play guitar. That's one of my favorite off hobbies from beekeeping. If I'm not out there in the bee yard, I'm playing guitar, and here trying to practice and do stuff on my other channel, because I have another channel, Grace and Guitar, that I do covers and stuff. So I run two channels.
What
And
song are you working on now?
well, I'm working on one. I'm gonna release it soon. I've been working mostly like on Guns N' Roses stuff so far. I'm more of the old classic rock stuff.
Yeah, I saw Guns N' Roses back in the day at
Definitely.
Giant Stadium
Really
in New Rutherford, New Jersey. That's right. With
cool.
Deep Purple and Aerosmith. Yeah, I'm dating myself there.
Definitely. I listen to their music too.
Cool.
I do guitar, and I do like we've do fishing too. We fish sometimes. We have a little river place that we go to. We're gonna try to put some bees there too, because there's some good flowers over there. But we do fishing. We'll fish, and then I was gonna try to do some hunting too this past winter, but I didn't get the chance to get out there and do a little bit of hunting. So I just um didn't have time. But hopefully this year I can, during winter, whenever I'm not doing bees, I'll have more time for live streams. Try to get guests on during winter. Then I can do guitar and hunting and stuff like that during winter. It's my plan for that too.
Nice. Thank
Definitely,
you.
definitely.
I
That's
just wanted to get to know you a little bit better because we know you as the Grayson on this channel, the Wildwoods beekeeping guy. but I know I'm not just a beekeeper, and I know you're not just a beekeeper too.
That's
So
right.
it's cool to get
You're
to
welcome.
know a little bit more about you, Grayson.
Definitely. Thank you for asking. And um, I was, there's a lot of different things that I like to do behind the scenes, but I really don't publicize, all the time. I've talked about it before, but a lot of people forget because that was like a long while ago. It was almost like a year and a half ago. So, it's been a while since, I mentioned all the things I've done. So that I do behind the scenes. So, so that's kind of how our, what I do. I'm probably forgetting something, but
Why'd you decide to start doing YouTube videos? What pushed you in that direction?
oh well, that's actually a good question. And I remember back, whenever I used to try to do videos. You guys can go back and watch some of my old videos. I suggest you don't because it's pretty terrible. But I did do videos. I talked a lot about different stuff. I've talked about inner covers. I've talked about a lot of different things. Some of them are actually not bad, but they're bad quality. Like they're like 360p. I remember I was trying to get my camera to go to 1080p. I couldn't figure it out. It ended up being my program. I got a new program, worked fine, much better quality. But I remember back then, nobody really watched my videos except for my family, right? So nobody really watched them, but my family. They watched it, and other people that kind of knew me locally, but nobody like whenever I was doing those types of videos a while back, because this has always been a Wildwoods Honeybee Farms YouTube channel. And if we go before this channel was made, this is actually it wasn't a channel at all. It was just 0 subscribers, nothing. So at one point in time, this channel had 0 subscribers. It was my mom's channel. She didn't use it for anything. So I remember I asked one day, can I just make it as like a honeybee channel? And she said, all right, you can do that. And then I did the channel. I originally called it Wildwoods Honeybee Shorts because I mostly did shorts back then.
Okay.
I ended up calling it Wildwoods Honeybee Farms as it is today. So then fast forward for a year, maybe even 2, I can't remember, around 2 years when I've been uploading videos. It had this certain video. It's called Beekeeper versus Beehaver. I heard those terms. That video did really well, and actually Bob Walker, Walker Beer, and I'm sure you know him from Walker, Beer Ranch. I was able to. He shouted me out on his channel. I had no idea that he did shout me out, but people in the comment section said Bob Walker shouted you out. I was like, really? Who's this guy? So I saw their Walker Beer Ranch. So I looked it up, Walker Beer Ranch. I saw he shouted me out. So then I was like, oh, pretty cool. So I followed him back, and then I didn't know where he shouted me out at. But then I went to his community page and saw that. So then, I thanked him for that, and he asked me to come on his live stream. So that's where these live streams come from. So whenever I went on his live stream, I kind of grew something that, wow, these live streams are pretty cool. Maybe I should try to do them and see how they work. And I originally thought I was going to do them every Sunday night, but Sunday never really worked for me. I couldn't really do Sunday night, so I figured what day is not taken. And I decided Monday would be the best day to do it, Monday at 7 p.m. Central. So that's kind of how the live stream started. Then after that, here I am now. A lot of other people found my channel and gave me a little shout out, and helped out with my growing period. Frederick Dunn, I had him on a live stream. I can't name all the people that I've had on this channel, on this chat. But
Grayson, I've watched most of them, and it's been cool watching you grow up. It's been cool. It was cool getting to meet you at Hive Life in Sevierville in 2023. You and your brother and your family. I can't wait to see as you grow how you develop as a beekeeper and a young man. It's really kind of fun to watch you. You kind of get better and get more comfortable in front of the camera. It's not easy talking in front of people, and you putting yourself out there like that. That's really cool for you to do at the age you're doing it. And when I started out as a teacher, it was terrifying to sit there in front of 28-year-olds and try to keep their attention for the entire day, and you get better at it over time, and the skill set that you're building through this is really, really valuable. So it's cool stuff.
Definitely.
Keep it up, man. And the people that you've had the opportunity to get to talk to, oh my gosh, what an amazing gift you've had, Grayson.
Definitely. We've definitely had a good bit of people on. You know, we've had Bob Benny. And really being able to have these guys on was able to give me more information from when they're talking. I can hear what they say. Bob Benny was a great, guy to get on. I learned a lot from him. I had Chris Werner on not too long ago. He's good person to get on, and I learned a lot from him too. And a lot of
great
other
interview. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're here at 8:00, and I guess we better go on and get start wrapping it up. We appreciate people joining us, and we had a really good chat tonight. 40 people on here tonight, and we appreciate everybody joining us tonight. Thank you, Brian, for joining us tonight too. We appreciate it.
You bet.
And we hope everybody has a good season so far. Whenever Tello starts coming in, whatever else is gonna be coming in for everybody's location. Thank you all for watching, checking in. And whenever you click off live stream, make sure to check out Brian's channel. I linked it in the description of this chat. So if you haven't checked him out, make sure to check him out and subscribe. And whenever you do end this live stream, maybe if you can give this live a thumbs up if you can. That'll help the videos, and definitely check out Brian's channel. He has some good stuff over there too. Subscribe and with the bell and all that stuff. But I guess I'm dragging it out again. But thank you guys for watching.
And Grayson, I'm going to sub to your guitar channel after we're done, because I'm not sub to that one, but I'm going to be after this one. So
definitely, thank you. And
yeah,
thank you all for joining tonight. And thanks
for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Definitely. Take care, everybody.